ask for approval of our minutes from our August 7th meeting.
I'll approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The primary reason we're getting together today is to review the annual contracts. There's a list of the contracts we're going to review on the agenda, and we'll also discuss our meeting schedule. So I guess just going down the list, the auditor contract, which is set, all of the contracts are set to expire 2025, right?
Yes, contracts set to expire 2025.
So there's basically this year and next year for all of these, but they're subject to an annual renewal based on performance. So the first one we'll talk about is the auditor contract. Do we have to renew each one of these individually, or can we go through just having discussed?
We'll need a motion for each individually.
I don't have a problem with that. We can do it that way.
It's probably
Okay.
cleaner.
Probably the cleanest way to do it, yeah.
Yeah. So the auditor contract, which Mengel Metzger Barb, I guess I'll open it up. Anna, if you had any, Robin, if you guys had feedback on how, how they did. I know we see the report, but we don't see the detailed process.
Of course. Mengel Metzger Bar's team conducts themselves very professionally. They're very comprehensive. They get situated right here in the business center. In fact, when they're performing the annual audit, they work very closely with staff. So Allison, can I put you on the spot to talk more in depth about how you work directly with the auditors?
Yeah, they usually have a team of 3 that come out, and they just sit here and work and come up and ask me for things, and I give it to them, and they're all very pleasant and quick and timely.
And I think to add that Greg's team is very much involved, and actually
Greg's team quarterbacks it, and Greg's team gives us ahead of time. They give us gives me a list of here's all the things you're going to need to provide for them, so that I'm prepared ahead of time.
Okay.
So they work well with Bonadio.
I'll ask.
Do they have like an operations report or so that, in terms of conflicts, and do they have any sort of preliminary findings that you all get to review with them in case you might disagree?
Yeah, they meet with Anna.
Yeah, we have a long, about a half-hour meeting to go over things, and it's become pretty routine in the last couple of years. I don't know how the audits functioned prior to 2020, but we have no complaints, and we feel like we're being fairly treated, and we feel like we're acting in good faith on behalf of COMIDA as a public authority. Everything's very transparent with strong checks and balances.
And I know it's shared with us as well, the board, with some of the findings.
Do they present to the audit committee?
Oh, sure.
They're detailed as, are you on the audit committee?
Yeah, I share it.
Any thoughts
Lots of
on?
detail. No, usually, if there's any issues that do come up, I think it's my memory that staff does have the opportunity to sort of review it, or if there's an adjustment that's warranted, or there's an opportunity for conversation. And then they give us a pretty thorough report, but it's a slimmer version than the full report that goes through the audit committee.
Just more of an observance is when we did that contract, I don't see auditors increasing fees annually, where they're at 2.5% annually increase. That would be something in our next RFP to negotiate and keep an eye on, because you keep hitting, your $300 a year over the last 3, so $1,000 increase over 3 years. And if if Bonadio is actually assisting with them to do all that legwork, they're really not doing like a real audit, no, not forensic, but more of a detailed audit. They're not doing all the legwork. It's all prepared for them pretty efficiently, you know, but that's our contract, is through 2024, correct? Just something to keep in dry powder when we RFP the next go round here. I'm just
Through 2025,
comment, just an observation.
I think so, yeah.
It's actually through 2025.
So does
So
that mean Greg?
have we
is
gotten
really
another price from
intimate?
anybody else just to see where the price lines up?
Well, when we did the RFP,
They were the only person.
this time they were the only one responded. The time before that, we did have Insero respond.
And what did the number look like at that time? Fairly close?
That was a while ago.
Okay,
I could get that number.
Yeah.
Because from 22 to 24, you got a 7.5% increase, which, given the economic environment we're sitting in, doesn't seem unreasonable to me. So, the only thing I would say is if we had another number from someone else, just as a barometer to say, yeah, they're in line or they're not, that's
Right.
what I would do.
I can look it up. You give me a second. So I misspoke. The audit contract, because that was done, RFP was done a year before. It's through 2024, and they gave us an option for the following year, if we want to take that.
But we still have to approve it annually.
Yes.
And for what it's worth right now, the accounting community is seeing a dramatic increase in their costs. The number of people entering the profession is declining, so there's a real competition for the people remaining. So I would not be surprised if we go back out for an RFP that these numbers jump dramatically. I know our audit costs are going up far more than this annually. We didn't have the wisdom to do a 5-year contract.
I'm available if you need a negotiator.
It's a good point, though, that we have a deep bench and that Bonadio does provide a lot of,
They do a lot of the
Expertise.
legwork, and
Yeah.
it's been, being on the committee, it's very clean. I mean, there's never any findings, it's pretty smooth.
Yeah, Benedito does a big job.
no drama.
Yeah, they are one of the best.
We can make it a goal, though, the next time that we issue RFPs to hopefully get more than 2 responses.
So in 19, we actually had 3 responses. I'm pulling
good,
up
okay.
now, but it's, oh, I can put my glasses on, I might be able to see better. I just have to
We had the
find-
same auditor for lots of years.
We had Bonadio.
Well, we
for
had
a long
Bonadio.
time, But then when
Yeah,
they switched to our
but I
financial,
Who
we,
was the?
Randy Shepherd.
Was it Randy Shepherd?
Yeah,
Ken, I think of Ken Pink. I don't know if he ever did any of the,
But it was the same manager of the audit every year. Because he used to have the same
where am I? Oh,
contract with,
I'm thinking the only person I ever dealt with before was Randy.
yeah, it was Randy.
Yeah.
So I think when we do issue the RFP, it would really be good to maybe reach out to some other firms to
so.
say, is there a reason they didn't respond to the last round? That actually will be a good check and balance if we get multiple, so.
I have seen auditing increases on at least one other board I sit on locally, so I'm not shocked at all that fees are going up.
Any other questions?
Why do they make it so?
The sister board, MCIDC, there's some accountants on that board, and we made that exact same point recently, just that it's very difficult right now to attract, retain accounting talent.
Yeah.
So in 2019, we did a RFP for 1 year, and one of the competitors came in at 12.5
in 2019.
in 2019, and we're,
Yeah, you're at 12,150 now, going into 24. Yeah, so, yeah.
and then we're trying to find the other number, but they don't make their RFPs easy.
No, it's like they want you to actually
Literally,
read through
yeah.
the whole thing. Not to exceed 11,000.
This other company was not to exceed 11,000.
Right in the middle.
Yeah,
In 2019.
Yeah, so there you go. So you know,
so,
we're in a different
Yeah.
world financially than we were in 19. so-
right.
So
I think these numbers are
Yeah, they're in line.
I chair another audit committee for another board, and it's pretty much the same story.
Yeah.
Manpower and finding good people.
Are there any other questions regarding the auditors? If not, I will entertain a motion to renew the contract with them.
Motion.
Thank you, Joe. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we have renewed our auditors. Accounting and CFO. That's currently being held by the Bonadeo Group. They're slated to go through 25. We're gonna take a look at renewing them through 24. I will say from what I've observed, Greg seems to be very much on top of it. I think he's definitely buttoned up, but I will open this up. I'll start with Anna and Rob and Allison. Your thoughts, you work a lot more closely.
Yes, Greg is an extension of our staff, really. We are in communication with him almost daily, definitely weekly. He's a trusted member of our team. He's very reliable and very fastidious. Allison, can I again put you on the spot, and Robin as well, to talk through how you work with, I know you have every other week, it's a check-in with Greg on our financials.
Yeah, we do that every other week, and then since we've started doing the investments, Greg and I touch base every other week as well, just to talk about bank balances and where we want to move things and when we want to move things. I work pretty much daily with one of his staff, just as far as like bill processing and like general accounting stuff, but they're always very responsive. They get back to me right away. They do what they need to do when I ask them to do it, so.
And that's a good point about the investments. That went very smoothly this past year. Financial markets are in a unique place, and we, I think, took advantage of that with Greg's guidance, investing in treasury bills, which was that 3 months? It was in the summertime.
July,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
July.
it was something.
Yeah.
And it's just under 5% from 2022, so reasonable.
Any other thoughts? Is there anything that when we renew a contract, always an opportunity to say, hey, here's some changes or some things we'd like to see the following year? Anything in that vein from Greg and Bonadeo?
I think from my end, if I ever see something that I like need them to do differently, I tell them right away, and they
I presume
make it
that,
happen.
but,
So, yeah.
They're responsive.
Yeah, they're very responsive and they're very open to whatever would make things easier for me, which I appreciate.
Would the board like to see any changes from Bonadeo and how they're reporting to us monthly and how Greg is engaging with meetings?
I think the only suggestion I would have to Greg is, I think the recommendations we made for investing the dough should have been thought of before we said, hey, where's the money, what's the interest rate? I just think that's something that should have been automatic, right? I don't think that's something that we should sit here and worry about. Are we getting a decent rate or a fair rate on the money? I think that's something that that should be automatic, part of their responsibility, fiduciary duty, whatever you want to call it. But I think.
Are they a fiduciary?
I think they are.
Our chief financial officer.
I believe they are. So I just think that should be something that should happen automatically. I think that would be my only suggestion,
Versus us bringing it up.
right?
Yeah, our checking account balance, right.
Yeah, no different than if you give retirement money to somebody and they're holding those dollars or investing those dollars or whatever they're doing with it, they have a responsibility to make sure it's kept in the best place possible.
Right.
It's a great point, Joe.
Not under the mattress, right.
Right?
That was what I was pushing for. If you get a third party, you don't have the fox watching the hen house on their opinion. Now,
Yeah.
if we were to take on, in the bond and T-bill and that world, Carpus, number one investor here in that style of investment. They become the custodian. That takes us away from being the custodian. Right now, we're the custodians. If something was to go bad, which we know, we trust Greg, we trust Bonadio, but that protects us if you brought in a third party. I just throw a Carpus because we were talking about T-bills, and that's their MO, is CDs and very conservative investment. I'm concerned as a board member of a decision that Greg had and the discussion, it still remained a custodian. And that verbiage in explained it, that was black and white, custodian, that we're on the hook for an investment. Now, if we were running a business and we're gonna start looking at this as a business and not a volunteer, do the right thing for the community, in a business world, what we're doing would not be acceptable, correct?
When you say what we're doing, like
Investing
in T-bills?
millions, investing millions.
I disagree. If we were investing in a risky asset, I would agree with you. I don't view this as an investment. I view this as cash management.
Okay.
Yeah,
And cash management is a very different thing than, like if we were gonna put this in stocks, whole different animal. But T-bills are basically money good.
I understand that, but the language in that policy
So,
still put us.
I don't have it in front of me, but I know that the language says the custodian of the public trust. So it's not verbiage about custodian of funds, it's a custodian of public trust as a quasi-government entity. So we did look at the language, and in my opinion, I don't think we needed to change it because of the context that it's in. It's not talking about funds. Just my, 2 cents on the policy without having it.
Well, the thing was hot about that is you had the number 7 bank go under at the time we were talking about
and again,
this.
context
So
of what was going on.
It's a very knee-jerk of even, there shouldn't even be any doubt in my mind that I'm gonna be okay. And there is a doubt in my mind that somebody could do something out of our control with that money, that cash, that we're still on the hook. We're overseeing this, but that make me more comfortable was to say to Greg, who's doing our financials, reporting to an auditor, why aren't we involving another party that's professional in investments to take that? You see where I'm going with this triangle?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
he's helping our auditor.
and the
have
way the
confidence
discussion ultimately went was that there's such a limit, cash management versus investment, and there's only so much we can do as the way we're set up. The list is, 3 items,
CDs,
versus
T-bills,
100,000 of options. We
Very
don't have
conservative,
that many options
conservative,
and what we can
correct.
do. So it felt, it was appropriate, I think, for Greg. And we can, timing and how long, cash balance has built up is, I think, a separate but related conversation. There was only so much we could do.
Well, they're
with the
coming to
money.
maturity right now, are they not?
Yeah, and I think to speak for Greg, and you can ask him when he's here, it has taken on a life of its own with the every 3 months.
3 months.
Talking to Allison every 2 weeks,
Sure.
what's in the checking account, what do we need to sweep? And he would almost agree with, wait a second, maybe we do need someone else, or it's taken on a life of its own. In a good way.
Yeah, very positive, for sure.
I think what I like for COMIDA's sake is that the laddering of the money every 3 months. I think it's, I think that's a good thing, and,
That's classic cash management, but to Joe's point, because I think these two are actually, they're 2 separate issues. One is, as a CFO, I agree 100% with Joe. He should have proactively brought up like, hey, you have, I don't remember the balance, but let's say $10 million sitting here.
whatever.
Basically earning nothing. We ought to look at ways to put that money to work. There are other options that will yield a much better return with no risk. T-bills are no risk.
Right.
That's cash management.
We missed a half a year, maybe more.
That is correct.
To my point, I'm not an investment professional to know that the T-bills and this money that was sitting in one entity, was it insured? Was there a chance of the bank going under that would put us as board members at risk? Those were the questions I was asking myself when this was all going on.
All good
And
questions.
all I would like to know is there an insurance that a board member could have this? I'm not saying it's gonna happen, Jay. I'm saying we saw something happen.
Yeah.
I'm not
Nobody
diminishing your concerns,
in the
Troy.
auditing world brought it to anybody's attention, which they should have. We should be conscientious that, are we doing our diligence to make sure this is on the up and up? And doing it in-house with Greg does not make me comfortable.
I'm not diminishing those concerns, but I'm trying to separate these points because I think they are very distinct points. I would have expected, a CFO in our organization to be very proactive in saying, I'm not fulfilling my fiduciary responsibilities by keeping this in a 0.1% checking account that's not earning any interest. I would have liked, to Joe's point, to see him raise the flag. Your point isn't diminished. If he brought that up, then we would have had a conversation on, okay, where should we be putting that? Should we be putting it in a CD? If we put it in a CD, we're exposed to a bank failure, right? We're above the 250,000 FDIC limit. That is something you would look at maybe more of an investment professional to help you with in conjunction with the CFO. Two different points. I'm not diminishing yours. I think those questions are relevant and we can address those. But I would agree with Joe. If we are going to give any feedback to Greg, I think we would like him to be more proactive with that.
And I think, to your point though, yes, I think Greg did flag the issue for us. He flagged it at a certain point in time where we had already lost, I think, some potential money, but he did flag it for us, and we took action, and as Robin pointed out, it set this new framework in motion that has taken on a life of its own, and I think we're in a position now to have more conversations about being proactive and working with more professionals.
Yeah, I mean, my recollection was really, we started looking at this at the behest of Troy. Troy was really bringing this up, like, hey, you know what, there's money here, why aren't we earning interest? That's the point, and Joe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's what I believe you're bringing up. It shouldn't have to come from Troy. As a CFO, it really should have come from
As
Greg.
rates climb, I think his job, his responsibility should be, hey, we've got $10 million sitting here. Here's what I think we should do with it. And to your point, I don't agree. Like, I have money, Troy, that for my company that's escrow money. So I'm not going to invest that how I would invest other funds, because I don't view it as my money, right? It's taxes, it's insurance money. So those dollars I would invest super, super conservatively. And this money, really and truly, I would invest the same way. And I would probably ladder T-bills, although it's not going to be our best rate of return. You have no exposure, because if a bank bellies up, the government's going to bail them out anyway. So why not just buy the T-bill and hedge, right? So that's what I would do. That's probably how I would handle it. Then it alleviates, now we have no exposure, right? We've laddered T-bills. We're constantly dollar cost averaging, whatever the interest rate environment is we're in, and we're safe and it's good. And I just think that's something that he should have done. And I think he's a good man. He does a good job. I'm just saying that would be my only.
Probably still new in that role, and he probably knows.
Right.
Well,
that would be my only constructive criticism to
By the way,
him.
this is your
would be-
responsibility.
Well, he did, he brought it up to staff when the big project started closing, and we were like, we gotta figure something out, and
Yeah, and I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Remember, the money, there was a high cash balance, but then it got very quickly higher when a
Right.
huge fee came in. So this,
Life cycle, right.
it happened quickly, there's always, you can always look back and say we could react
Yeah,
more
yeah,
timely and faster, but, you know, a lot that went on.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, let me say this to you, I wouldn't go knocking him that he didn't do a good job. I would say in the future, your comment was, is there anything that the board, we could suggest
be
him?
doing.
That would be my suggestion to him,
Yep.
is just to make sure you keep an eye on that.
So, to that point, because I don't wanna, these are two separate things, and I think we should add to already a full plate, because that the governance committee had, maybe we ought to be looking at a investment advisor, because interest rates aren't going to be steady. They're going to change, so as we see things.
They're gonna come down.
Should we be looking at that, so, but I guess coming back to what we need to do today, one second, is really, I guess, you know, to Greg, I think we should mention to him, we would request, we understand, but we would like him to be proactive in terms of how we do our active cash balances.
And I think we need clarity on, does Bonadeo have somebody in-house that does investing? Does Bonadeo have this person?
That's a good.
And if they do,
I would actually, I think we should take that offline. I would prefer that be separated.
no, but I'm not, what I'm saying to you is,
Yeah.
if they have that person in-house, then I think it either needs to be audited or it needs to be separate.
I would prefer it be separate, but that's where Greg can rely on that person for some ideas, but we ought to have a
And
separation.
keep in mind, given our limited,
Right.
what we can do with this money, I'm not sure we have to get, because really, to Troy's point, if we're really worried about bank defaults, now that takes that whole shopping CDs out of the mix. So really, all you're doing is
You're doing
dollar
T-
cost averaging in
Yeah.
T-bills,
But-
which you don't
but
need a
what you
rocket
can
scientist
do-
to do that.
But what you can do is, as you're looking at this, you can say, what does that ladder look like? Am I taking 9 million and doing 3 million a month? Am I varying it, saying,
Yeah.
all right, am I gonna lock in a 6-month period this time, based on our cash needs? That's classic cash management.
Right.
Where's the outflows? How should I be looking at laddering?
Right.
It's a classic CFO activity.
Absolutely.
So in the interest of time, can we we can schedule a finance committee meeting in the new year, and Greg, he'll
Perfect.
agree with half the things that are being said right here. And like I said, it's taken on a life of its own, and he might even have his own suggestions on
Perfect.
how to deal with this, because it's actually not even in his contract to do that type of work, so
We
maybe it
can
is
take the
time, yeah.
constructive feedback to Greg, get the meeting scheduled, and
Yeah.
then
Sounds
hopefully
good.
make a motion here to approve an
Yeah.
additional year.
And I
Yeah,
had
I
a question, I'm sorry.
Do we coordinate any of our finances with the budget office for the county and the CFO for the county? Are we comparing notes? Should we be doing something else or in concert with?
We have an
I did
annual
talk to
contract with the
Yeah.
county.
I did talk to Bob Franklin. What did he say?
He agreed with our.
He agrees, he does T-bills, that's what they.
Yeah, T-bills,
They do all
scattered
T-bills.
T-bills.
But is that the first time we've actually had that conversation?
This was
with
the first time we were in
county
a
budget
position
office?
to have a discussion, like we're,
Yeah.
as Rachel
You would
pointed
think
out, the
all the arms and
situation
legs of the
snowballed.
county, we would be coordinating that. or-
I think the short answer is
Broader.
yes, we work collaboratively with the county on, if there are questions, you know, Robin and Anna, of course, have ample contacts.
So that we're in concert with
Yeah,
how they're
sure.
managing funds,
sure.
other organizations, and what their expectations.
Yeah.
Is it in Greg's report? On what the money and how the moving investments is going? I don't see an investment line, is there?
It's,
There's a line.
I seen it in the past.
It wouldn't be a bad idea to have that as a regular reporting.
Interest and incomes, year-to-date, 291,000.
right. So that could be
But
broken.
291,000 on, how much did we put in there? 5 or 6, was it? What was the number? How much?
It was a few $1 million. We'd have to look at the
Like
specific.
8 or 10, I think it was like 10.
Yeah,
Yeah, we could ask him
Yeah.
to submit
I
that to us.
think
Here's how
that
much
would be
we have,
some,
here's
I
where it
think
is,
that
here's
would
the
be
rates.
something right now.
I think it's a great point.
It's a great idea.
In our
Yep,
investments, we have
Yeah.
X amount,
I can print you out the Wilmington Trust statement that tells you which each one is and when it matures and how much is it. I think they all go 1.8. I think that's, we buy each one at 1.8, 3 month staggering.
Yeah,
Based
That's
on what we're gonna need, when we're gonna need it.
that's probably a little more detail. I think as Greg does his monthly report, I think it would be
Yeah.
a real good thing just to have a line item. here.
Okay.
Yep. I
It'd
got it.
probably take 30 seconds.
I mean,
for-
money in, money out, we don't see that, we don't see that money in, money out as detailed as we would on a profit and loss, right?
Right, we don't see a
So
P&L.
that's concerning. If I'm a board member and I am reviewing and I'm not getting into that, that's concerning to me. It
So you-
really is. Because I have Bonadio sharing with an auditor, sharing what we did. And I would like to see more in detail on that.
That's,
Because-
okay, that's great feedback we can share. So you'd like to see more of a P&L statement in addition to,
Right, because
Detail, okay.
right now I asked how much we invested and I don't know how much we
Yeah.
invested.
What does a
Robin, I would
profit
call
and
it-
loss
I would call
statement
it
look
the
like? We're
That-
not-
I mean, I
not
should
Well,
know
we
it's
that
should
more,
more
show
already.
it's more.
how much we
We're
have,
not shareholders.
where is
in
it,
a
and what's the
private-
rate?
yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it'll
all.
look,
Not a P&L, it's more.
But it would just
Ladder
be an
this much,
investment summary.
do,
Of
yeah,
course.
it's
And
very
just-
simple.
Just what Allison described.
So a
Hey.
performance report on the
Yeah.
investment.
Yeah, like we have,
That's appropriate.
we have three,
Yeah.
we're in 3-month T-bills, each one at 1.8 million that basically roll over every month.
Sure, so exactly
I'm
what we
just
have.
trying to draw the distinction because we're not private, we're not shareholders of a private corporation.
But if I am gonna be the custodian, I wanna know if it came to maturity and we have another set of eyes going, well, wait a minute, what's going on? That came to maturity. Did we do our due diligence? Oh, we haven't. Well, there's 6 more months that went by, right? This is what I'm just trying to keep, if I'm gonna be in the middle of this, I wanna be in the middle of it. I don't wanna be on the sideline watching what's playing.
I think for him
More
to spend
information.
a minute just going through and reporting out on that would be very beneficial.
To put it in the
Or
report.
just to have it in, yeah.
It's
I
easy.
kinda
And then the
remember,
finance committee maybe ought to have a little more of an
It's a one
excruciating
pager, it's
detail.
easy.
Yep.
so what was the number offhand, do we remember?
Of how much we have in?
Well, what we put in to start, was it
I wanna
like
say it was like 10.
5.6?
Five,
It was
10,
at
4.
least-
Yeah, I thought so
5.1.
too.
No, like 10 million.
Yeah,
Was it 10
You
million?
did invest the 10 million.
yeah, they're all in T-bills.
Jake, could I make a long-range comment? So, we're in unusual times and financially, and going back to Paul Volcker, when he tamed inflation in the early 80s, we had, since the early 80s, for the last 40 years, we had declining rates that ultimately went to zero, pretty close. And so now, things are a little more active, back to the way they were from the mid-60s till the early 80s. So having somebody that, stays on top of things is important because things are gonna change. We all hope that interest rates are gonna go down, not for what we're doing, but we're all hoping, for inflation's sake, that we're hoping that the rates go down, but we don't know what's gonna happen. So having a good set of eyes and ears on what's happening is important, because this is different than it's been for the last 40 years, starting last year.
No,
We have a small staff. We're very grateful to have such an engaged board, and we're very grateful to work with professionals.
12.2. Our total in right now is 12.2.
Yeah, so we're doing 2.8% on that 10 million from, if you look at that line where it says interest, you had 2022 at 1,600, 917, and then today's number 291, that's close to 2.8%.
We gotta let him answer those questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
And
can give you
Which
the
isn't
number, but I don't necessarily.
terrible.
Well, you
How many
expect
times
them-
did we convene finance in 2023? Do you know offhand? We had several committee meetings that
Not
bore
offhand.
fruit in
Not offhand, but I
this
would
But
current.
we'll schedule one in January.
But yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm just saying that we had a very productive
Oh, I didn't,
2023
yeah.
in facilitating a
was like, what do you got
positive
now?
outcome for the financial situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that
In
doesn't.
response
Okay.
to the original concerns about the funds that were in our checking account.
It's sometime, didn't we invest the money sometime in the summer, whether it was
Yes.
early summer, right? We
July.
didn't get
He
July.
started. He
Yeah,
started
it took us a little while to get board approval for.
We started discussions, I think, in the spring,
In
March.
earnest in the spring, and that we had several committee meetings, and it took us that long to get everyone's buy-in and approval on the plan.
It was a March Madness conversation, if I recall.
So,
Great, let's.
this has been a really good discussion.
Finance.
I will, it seems like I'll entertain a motion to renew the contract with Bonadio with the caveats of giving them feedback on being more proactive with the cash management, and also having the finance commit, putting in that
Better
information in Greg's monthly report, and then more detailed reporting periodically, I would say quarterly, to the finance committee.
And was there a suggestion to do an RFP for investment services in
I will
a
leave
future
that to
year?
the finance committee to determine, but I think there could be value in doing that. So, do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
Thank you, seconded, all in favor? Any opposed? All right. Local labor monitoring. I think, Troy, I'll ask you for some comments on this. I know you work very closely with Kevin.
Well, Kevin has been very responsive when I call. I'll reach out to him. He gets back. If he doesn't, his team does. We did have a situation recently with a sign that looks like somebody continues to take down, which is fun for me to just drive by. And, yeah.
Oh.
But this last time it got put in with, I think, concrete and a 4x4 in the ground. So,
Whereabouts is that coming to sign?
You're gonna take that out. You really want it out.
Get a chainsaw to get that one down.
No, I want it bigger. What are you kidding me? No, it was, yeah, we can talk. It happens, it happens, it happens a lot.
Okay.
It happens a lot, yeah. Whether it's wind or it's not attached right, or who's responsible, it's delivered, but I think the general contractor is responsible where it goes and where it gets displayed. Kevin doesn't get too deep into making it concrete proof, but he did it at the third go back. But he's been great, he's doing great. I know they're growing, I know they're continuing to spread their book of business. My concern is, some of the contractors locally know when Kevin comes and does a visit, then they have a window to get some stuff done. We've seen that take place. So I don't know if more visits in his contract, what's the contract state right now? Is it every 2 weeks, every 10 days? If there's an infraction, then he goes back immediately and checks as we see that report. So I think that's gonna be a moving target depending on our workload, right? If Life Cycle was going on right now and Fairlife was gonna tag on to this with all of the other projects, it would definitely, that badging system, which is in discussion on another project that's not related to COMIDA right now, only because it is gonna be a massive job to keep tabs and safety and keep track of employers and employees. Yeah, Kevin, I don't know if that's enough for Kevin to increase. I don't know his contract. I never reviewed what is Kevin's responsibility other than he has his bylaws.
Weekly monitoring,
Yeah,
right?
he has.
Does his contract specify the number of site visits?
I don't think it does.
It does not.
Okay.
Plus, it depends on the number of active projects.
He's been flexible.
Yeah.
Like if we've asked him to go to a site more frequently, he'll do it or randomize his visits. We've given him that feedback. So it's kind of on a case by case basis. If there's
If there's
a
something,
site that
We
warrants
receive a
more
call, a
visits.
complaint.
he gets there
something is
immediately.
flagged.
He'll go on weekends if it's warranted. Like he texts me and calls me immediately if there's an issue, just to let us know, and then follows up with something official in writing.
Very passionate
Yeah.
about his job.
That's a very good word.
Yeah,
That's
he
perfect
does a
way
good
to
job, for
describe
sure.
it.
A good question for Loki Brill, I think, would be, as their book of business has grown, how they've added to their FTEs and spread their capabilities statewide, just in being able to get to project sites all over the state, not just in Monroe County. I've been curious about that because I wonder sometimes, how can Kevin Loki be in so many places at once? You know, I know that it's not just Kevin doing the work, but he's the one that we're calling. He's the one that is doing the due diligence for us. 9 times out of 10.
We need to get them a new hard hat because they do see him come out of the car. They know how to identify him, and if there's people on site that shouldn't be there, they scamper.
So, hey, Norm.
Hey, go on this side today.
You can just sit next to me today.
So, can we, I agree with everything that's said. I think Kevin is a consummate professional. I think he is very dedicated to what he's doing. I think the points that were brought up here, I would ask if we could take a look at his contract to see what is included for the local laboring, and do we have the opportunity, if needs increase, do we have the opportunity to request more service? If we did have a life cycle and a fair life going at once, and we wanted, I'm gonna be absurd, if we wanted daily monitoring, could we have Loki Drill do that?
Yes,
Yep,
So we do have the ability
yes,
to do that.
as directed by COMIDA, that's how it reads.
Okay.
As directed by COMIDA.
Okay, and so I think that's something we should at least talk about if we have some places where we wanna go a little more frequently, and I know he's been really good.
yeah, he does, yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, that's great, it's great that's in the contract. And I think it is interesting, we should ask him, is it always him going to the same site? Or as they've grown, this actually could be an advantage. If he's got a few people,
Right.
can they mix it up? Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But then eventually that'll play itself out as well.
Or get rid of the negative players.
Yeah. So, any other comments on, or questions on Loki Brill, local labor? I'll entertain a motion to renew their contract for 24. Thank you, Ann.
I'll second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. Local labor exemption.
Yeah.
So Robin works most closely with Brian LaFountain, and can speak to his responsiveness. He's very responsive. Again, though, it's a smaller contract than our monitoring contract, and the volume of exemption processing work has increased because of, well, when Life Cycle was an active project, and now in light of course, the Fairlife project. So there are some impatient project owners oftentimes that are looking for answers.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Like yesterday when I think somebody once submitted a request, there was a Fairlife request that came in like the day after Thanksgiving, and come that Monday, they were like, why isn't Brian responded to my email? So I think any questions about his responsiveness are more so on the project owner side, impatient folks that are involved in the construction. We as staff are very satisfied with Brian's performance and his professionalism, and as you will all recall, in the last handful of years, we've instituted an electronic exemption processing system whereby it's fairly simple and straightforward for project owners to fill out the paperwork. We have our partnership with the Builders Exchange, Plan Room. It's not perfect, but Brian knows who to call and when. He knows to call Troy, he knows to call Grant Malone. Obviously, Robin and Brian are on speed dial with one another. So with that preamble, Robin, did I miss anything about Brian's processing? Okay. And as you see here also, similar to Loki Brill, it's a flat contract annually. You know, I think if we wanted to see more out of Brian and for him to add more bench strength to his COMIDA portfolio, we would probably need to kick in a little bit more funding. But the system works. I think we're just seeing a lot of project activity. And of course, you know, as construction talent is stretched, and this like no local labor available box is checked frequently, it's great that Brian has been so communicative and collaborative with the local labor community, particularly with our union halls.
Troy, any thoughts? I know you work pretty closely with Brian as well.
So live right now, there is a waiver that we had a conversation locally between the concerned contractors, and we do have a local contractor looking to bid it instead of an out-of-town contractor, so that's good. It's working. The 45 days, we try to expedite, which we did, I think, on that one matter. We worked together to just say, hey, we've exhausted this. We've seen this before. Yeah, it's a good relationship with everything going on. I think that builder's exchange list of all the contractors and what's out there to be shared with the out-of-town contractor helps tremendously. Who does what here locally that nobody really, saves them a lot of time of picking up and just Googling who's what.
Yeah, I mean, my only thoughts are, and I believe Brian was the only, and Bonadeo was the only one who responded. As we go out to RFP, I think if we could maybe do some more outreach. I think Brian does a great job. I think he's responsive, but I think someone who knows the contracting community a little more and knows that area would be maybe able to provide some more insight, because I think at the end of the day, he relies a lot on you. And it's great, puts a lot of pressure on you.
Thanks.
And
Appreciate that.
yeah, we're recognizing that.
You can handle it.
Is that by looking at them?
Yeah.
Does it show that much?
So we're gonna discuss our wages today too?
Yes, I think we're gonna double our.
Yeah,
It's a zero.
We're doubling.
We're gonna get double.
Yeah,
We're gonna get double, zero.
It's like the 50-50 warranty, breaks, you keep both halves.
7 minutes.
Any other thoughts or comments on the local labor exemption contract? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Joe.
Second.
Thank you, Ann. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, legal contract, and,
Well, note she left the room.
yeah, thank you. I guess, I'll turn it over to you, Anna and Robin, Allison, for your thoughts.
Thank you. We, as you all know, we work incredibly closely with Rachel, and she is a consummate professional and helps to steward us through very challenging situations and also some very busy project calendars. We've had the 3 busiest years on record for COMIDA since 2020 in terms of project volume, and that's been onerous for staff and particularly onerous on the legal side. And Rachel has conducted herself with a lot of professionalism and grace, and we have no complaints. Robin, speaking of being on speed dial, I'm fairly certain Robin and Rachel talk more than maybe they do to their spouses.
Yeah, That's probably accurate.
Yeah.
She's very.
Can you share like a percentage of what happened year over year to stay consistent if we're gonna set it and understand, be conscientious of
Yeah.
what's going on out there right now?
We can get a breakdown to,
Wait,
so I
I'm
think
sorry,
what
I
Norm's
don't understand.
what Troy's asking for is to look at, based
Not-
on our
Not
fee
a number,
schedule.
but a percentage.
Oh, well, her fee is,
1/3.
1/3 of the agency fee.
Oh, it's okay,
So whatever we're getting as our fee, take 1/3 of that
so
on
it's,
any given
so
project.
it's been a good 3 years.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
But you work harder for it.
that's okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's how that firm has built their business, right, all over the state.
Any other thoughts? I mean, I know, anytime I contact Rachel, she's always available, but what I also like is she tends, at least I've seen it, she's pretty proactive when there are, she tries to get in front of issues, which I think is very commendable.
And the
from my
depth, I
standpoint.
think, of her knowledge and.
And
you
the bench
ask her a
behind her.
simple question,
Right.
Yeah. She's got a full answer, you know, like this, that, and that, you know, so that she's really knowledgeable. We rely on her.
It's
But-
rare when she can't answer a question that somebody
Yeah, I don't
asks.
think I've
Rare.
ever seen that, but she works with our team as
Yeah.
if she were our full-time.
Yeah,
And
she
she's
does a
always
great job.
available.
She does, for sure.
Any other comments or thoughts? I'll entertain a motion to. Thank you, Ann. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Robin, meeting schedule.
Yeah, I just wanted to have a discussion on how you want to handle, I know we've talked about having meetings more often. And we'll work on the topics. We can have an offline discussion on that, on the agendas for each meeting, but how,
Since the committee's here, the governance committee has a pretty full plate. What I would like to do to keep things moving along is, we're not allowed to do remote meetings, are we? They have to be in person.
People can remote in, but it doesn't count
there
towards
has to be a quorum in
Right.
person.
In person. Are people available bi-weekly to keep things moving along, or, you know, because there's been a lot that's been piling up on our
We
plate.
could try, for sure.
What constitutes a quorum for the,
So there's,
For the
Four out of
committee, there's,
seven.
no, there's
No, but there's
four
four
on the
on
Oh, on the
committee,
committee.
yeah,
so you need three in
Three.
person.
Norm, what's your, I know I would be available,
I'm flexible. So if we can set a,
because I'd rather do just a standing,
yeah, if we can set the dates now, I think it's something that we can say yay or nay on. Because I'm on some other boards that I already have a schedule for that, so I can work around that.
my preference is to do either a morning meeting, like at the beginning of the day or towards the end of the day, the middle of the day.
How early in the morning are you talking?
How early in the morning are you
Not too
available?
early on
Now, remember, I used to get up at 5 every morning. Now I'm in
So it should be easy for you to, very easy
I'm not
for
talking
you
to
to
you, Troy.
adjust.
I'm talking to-
St. James.
So is it like 9 o'clock, something like that, I can work on something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a standing meeting every morning at 8 o'clock. It's
Okay.
usually by 9:45.
Okay.
So I could do late morning, like around that time, or end of the day, I can make one.
10:30, I love it, 10:30 is perfect.
10:30 texting in the middle of the day, or is everybody available right around 3:30?
But depends on the day. No, so, I mean, if you wanna do 3:30, that's great.
So what I would suggest is if we try and do maybe 3:30 on Thursdays, the first and the third Thursday. Our meetings are on Tuesday. The-
Third Tuesday.
So maybe the second and the fourth Tuesdays,
Or
I'm sorry, Thursdays.
if we did the first and the last,
If we did the first and the last, we would have 2 consecutive weeks. And I'd like to have a little bit of a,
Or could you coordinate it with this meeting before or after?
This is very
One-
stressful for me.
Oh, is it?
that's what,
Yeah, I
High
mean,
anxiety right now.
we're running into the regular meeting.
I think it's best we have a separate meeting away from this day.
second and fourth Thursdays at 3:30?
Yeah.
Robin, if we can get those on calendars,
Yeah.
and let's give it a shot, and we'll adjust as necessary.
And then if we get, the thing is, we have it on our schedules, our calendars. Then if we get caught up and there's nothing to meet for, then we can just, postpone it or
Yep.
cancel it.
Yep.
How you doing?
Okay. Any other business? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, second?
Seconded by Norm.